Alright, so before we begin with the tutorial, bear in mind a couple of things. First of all, I had some really bad allergies the day I recorded it, so you're going to hear me sniffing a lot in that video, and for that I apologize. Second of all, it's not going to work on every computer because if the administrator of the system added a password to restrict boot devices, then if you don't know the password, you're not going to be able to boot off of it. And finally, I don't know how secure this actually is. Seems pretty secure compared to just using a public computer with whatever it has on there right now. But if you know more about this than me, please tell me what to improve in my second version in the comments, because trust me, I'm working on a second version that will be better. So, without further ado, let's get on to the tutorial. What is up, guys? It is LaughingTNT or Ryan, and today I am going to be doing a tutorial on how to make my system on a USB. And just a minute ago, I should have used the power of editing to explain why I did it and some of the pros and cons of it. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. So, first of all, I'm going to be explaining how to make this on a Linux system. So, if you're running Windows, you need to get a small spare USB to put Ubuntu. You'll need a small spare USB to put Ubuntu on, just to run it on your USB so you can follow along. And if you want a tutorial on how to make a live USB to run on your system, please tell me down in the comments, and I will get right onto it. So, now, the first thing we're going to want to do, now that we're in Linux, is open up the terminal. And the way you can do that is if you're running Ubuntu, in later versions it'll be GNOME, but if you're running 17.04, there'll be a little button right in the corner, right around here, a little sidebar that has the Ubuntu logo. You just click on that and you'll type in terminal, or you could just press Ctrl-Alt-T on any Ubuntu version and it should open. And now, once you got a terminal, what we are going to do is we are first going to run sudo-i, and it should ask for a password if you have an existing Linux installation, and it shouldn't if you're running off of a live USB. And the way we know we are root now is instead of having the $sign, we should have a number sign. So, now that we are like this, we have to be extra careful because anything we can do if we type in the wrong thing could mess up our system. So, if you are brave, you may continue. I'm just going to clear the screen so we don't have to see that. So, next what we're going to do is type in apt update and let that run. And you have to be connected to the internet to do this because we are going to be installing some programs. So we're going to wait for that to get done and wait for the number sign to appear again. It's going to take a second. Alright, now that that's done, we are going to run apt install qemu-system-i386. And the reason we are using the i386 version is because we are going to make the system on a USB 32-bit, so it is compatible with the widest range of computers. If we make it 64-bit, older computers won't be compatible with it, and I want it to be compatible with most computers. That's why we're making it 32-bit, and it's going to boot off of an MBR instead of UEFI-based system. So, once we type that in, we're going to press enter, and I already have it installed. Or at least I thought. Yes, I already had it installed, so now it's installing the 64-bit version. Oh wait. Now, I didn't have it installed on this computer actually, and it is going to say installing qemu-system-x86, and that's the same package, so don't worry. I just installed it. And now what we have to do is insert the USB we want to put the actual encrypted operating system on. Okay, now that that package is installed. Okay, now that the package is installed, what we are going to do is run fdisk space -l. And now we are going to take note of what's here, and we are going to put in the USB that we want to put the system on. I'm going to use a 16 gigabyte SanDisk USB. So I'm going to put it in. And we're just going to press the up arrow and run the fdisk space -l command again. And as you can see, compared to the last one we did, it ended right there, with the last one being /SDB 232.9 gigabytes. But this one ended with /dev/SDC, and it is 14.9 gigabytes. So that is in fact my 16 gigabyte USB. So the number we want to take note of is this one right here, right before the bytes. So I'm going to highlight it, right click, and press copy. So now it is on our clipboard, so we don't have to type it in when we need it. So next, what we want to do is we want to actually open a file explorer. So again, what we want to do is, if you're running Ubuntu, you just want to go to the button that would be over here, click it, and then type in files. And then a folder icon should pop up. We're just going to click on that. And then everything should be here. So I'm in my home folder. And what you're going to want to do is you want to press home just to make sure you're there. Going to want to right click in an empty space and press new folder. And we're just going to call it Encrypted USB, just like that. So we're going to create the folder and go into it. And it's going to be an empty folder. So now what we want to do is we want to download the 32-bit version of Ubuntu to put onto this USB. So I'm going to show you how to get there now. You're going to want to open a web browser, which should be Firefox if you're running off of a live USB. It should be somewhere in the sidebar here. So once we open up to our web browser, going to want to go to the top bar and type in www.ubuntu.com, and it is going to load the Ubuntu website. And you don't have to use Ubuntu for the USB, but that's what we're going to be using in this tutorial. So if you're using something like Fedora, then you have to obviously change the tutorial for the Fedora commands because they use RPM instead of DEB files. So if you're not too comfortable with Linux, just stick to the tutorial. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to desktop right here and click on it. Going to go to download Ubuntu. And I'm going to use the latest versions here, 17.04. And this messed me up the first time. You do not want to click here because that will give you the 64-bit version. So, we want to press alternative downloads and torrents. And we are going to find the BitTorrent version for 17.04 or whatever the latest version is, and the desktop version and 32-bit. So it's right here. I'm going to click on it. And it is going to download the torrent, and since you are on a live USB, BitTorrent is built in. Gonna open the torrent file, and it is going to download. But I already downloaded it, so it's gonna complain, but for you, it would add it, and it would download. So the place this is downloading is the downloads folder. So I'm gonna navigate there real quick. Alrighty, so here is my ISO file. I'm actually going to use no. Alright, so here is my ISO file. So I am going to right click on it and I am going to click cut. I'm going to go to my home folder and go into the encrypted USB folder I made. Right click in some empty space and click paste. And now the ISO file is in this file. This is going to be our working directory from now on. So we're going to get out of the file explorer. So now we are back in the terminal. So what we are going to do now is type in cd space and then whatever you named your folder. So I named it Encrypted USB. Wait 1 second. Right. So what I forgot was when you do sudo -i, it puts you in the root folder. So what we want to do is we want to type in cd/ and then cd space home. And if you are running a full Linux installation, you'll do cd space your username. But if you're running off of a live USB, you'll do cd space Ubuntu and then press enter. But since I'm running a full installation, I'll do cd space Ryan. And then you'll do cd space whatever you named your folder, Encrypted USB. Now we are there, and if we type in ls, we see the ISO file we put in there. Make sure it has i386 at the end of it. So now that we did that, we are going to make the file that's going to be our USB to write on. It's basically going to be like a fake hard drive of sorts. So what we're going to type in is dd space if equals /dev/0 space of equals USB key.img. Okay, so what you want to type in next is space bs equals 1 space count equals 1 space seek equals and then that number from earlier, this one right here. And since we cut that cut and pasted that ISO file, I don't know if it'll still be in the it got rid of it from our clipboard, so I'm just gonna go back up here, copy it again, right click, copy, right click down here, paste. So there it is. We are going to press enter, and there we go. It'll say 1 byte copied, but if we were to go into the file manager and look at the file, it'll say it is 16 gigabytes. So that is good. Now what we want to do is we are going to boot into the file we just created with the ISO as the CD. So what we want to do is type in qemu-system-i386 local time -m space, I find a good number is 1024, but if you know your system that you're doing this on has less than a gigabyte of memory, do something like 512. But if you have over a gigabyte of memory, 1024 works good. I have 3 gigabytes on this system, so that should be fine. And then we will do space -HDA, HDA, and then we will type in USB key.img is the file I created in the dd command. And then we'll do space -cd-rom, and then we will just start typing in Ubuntu. Then if you press tab, it'll complete it for you, and it'll even put a space at the end for you, which is nice. So then all we have to do is type in -boot space D, and D represents the CD-ROM. And then this command looks complete. So what we are going to do is we are going to press enter, and we are going to boot into it. So there we go. I'm just going to press try Ubuntu without installing. And now we are, oh, this is one thing I forgot to put in because I always forget this. And if you don't put it in, your VM will run super slow. So right after local time, you want to put in --enable -kvm, and that will make it run faster. So we're going to do this again, do this. And now we are going to wait for it to boot up, so I will be back when it is done booting up. So I just came back to my computer and I've come to something weird. We have the virtual machine booted up, except it's asking me to log in. And I don't know why a live system would do that, but that's fine. We'll just type in for the username Ubuntu and type in enter, password none, and it should bring me to the live desktop anyway. So that isn't that big of a deal, but it's just something I found peculiar. Alright, now we are at the interface I'm familiar with. So we are just going to get out of keyboard shortcuts. Gonna try to X out. Don't know why it never X's out when I try it. It's weird. Gotta do that. Then click out of there. And one thing you may notice is it isn't showing the full interface. Like, where's the top bar? Well, if you put your mouse near the top, it will scroll up. So there's another thing, you know. So what we are going to do now, before we press install Ubuntu, we are going to press inside with your mouse inside of the virtual machine, Control-Alt-T. Now that should open a terminal inside of the virtual machine. And it did. And you'll know that because you'll see a terminal window that says Ubuntu at Ubuntu. And you'll have the $sign again. So what we are going to do is we're going to keep it a window, and that is annoying. This is one thing I don't like about Ubuntu. And if you also don't like this problem, tell me down in the comments and I will give you a tutorial on how to disable these from popping up. So give it a second. Virtual machines are going to be slower because they're virtual machines. Alright, that doesn't want to close, so we're just going to type in, oh, it closed, never mind. So, what we are going to do, alright, now that that's out of the way, what we are going to do is type in sudo-i, and that'll bring us to root at Ubuntu with the number sign. And now what we are going to type in is fdisk-l. And now what we should have is a loop device, which is the live medium itself, and then we should have /dev/sda with the size of your USB drive. And don't worry if this number is a bit different. If this number is a bit off, then you might have to remake your image file. But what we are going to do is, since we have this already, we are going to type in fdisk/dev/sda. And this should be the same for everyone because there should only be one hard drive in your virtual machine. And there is, SDA. So we're going to do that, press enter, and you will get this. So what we are going to do is we are going to press N, enter, P for primary, partition number 1. For sector, just keep it as the default. And we are going to type in plus, and then you want to specify the size you want your partition that will be visible in Windows to be. So I want it to be, since this is a 16 gigabyte USB drive, I want it to be, I don't know, 4 gigabytes. So you type in plus 4G. And now it is a 4 gigabyte partition. Now what you want to do is type in N, press enter, do P for primary, and do number 2, since it's already there, First sector, keep it as the default, so just press enter. And now the last one, we're going to specify the size ourselves again, so we're going to do plus. And since this is going to be the partition that all of the boot files are going to be on, since they can't be encrypted, we are going to do plus 512 M, capital M. Got to make sure every letter you type in is capital. Press enter. Okay. Now for this last partition, we just press N, press enter, P, enter, and now keep all the defaults. 3, default, default. Now make a partition that fills up the rest of our drive. So we are going to type in W, press enter to write the changes, and now everything is good. If you see red letters here, you might want to reboot the virtual machine by pressing shutdown up here and then typing in the QEMU-system-i386 command again. So what you want to do now is you want to do this. I was actually wrong. You want to do fdisk space dash slash dev slash SDA again. So you're back here. Now what you want to type in is T and partition number 1. Don't keep it as default 3. Type in 1. Press enter. Type in a capital L. And I'll show you all of this. And we're going to look for the one that says this, HPFS slash NTFS slash XFAT, which is type number 7. So we're just going to type in 7. Press enter. And now that changed the Windows partition to an Windows readable format. So we'll just press W again, enter to write that to the drive. Okay, so now what we want to do is you want to type in mkfs.ntfs space dash F space dash L space, and then what you want the label to be. So I'm just going to call it Ryan's USB, and we're going to put that in quotes like so, and we are going to go back to the end, press space, and do slash dev slash sda1, and now it is going to set the first partition to a NTFS partition so it's able to be read on Windows. So now that it says it has completed successfully, we are going to do the boot partition now. Now for the boot partition, that one's even simpler. It's just mkfs.ext2 space slash dev slash sda2. Press enter. And now that that's done, we are going to do the last partition a little different. What we are going to do for this one is actually crypt setup LUKS capital F for format, and then do slash dev slash SDA3. And we are going to type in uppercase yes to accept that it'll overwrite any data that's on SDA3, and there's nothing on it, so we are good to go. And now we are going to enter in the password we want to use at boot. So I'm going to type in test123, and when you type it in, nothing's going to show up there, and that's fine. Just press enter. Type it in again. Oops. Apparently I did it wrong because I didn't type in the same password. There we go. Now this time, since the password's matched, you're going to wait for a little bit. It's going to sit there, and then it's going to go back to root at Ubuntu. Now we have a encrypted partition with nothing on it. So to be able to set it up for installing the system, we have to mount it. And the way we do that is crypt setup space LUKS uppercase O for open, and then do slash dev slash SDA3 space, and then type in USB SYS exactly like this. USB SYS. So that's a capital U, capital S, capital B, capital S, and then lowercase y and lowercase s, like I have there. Press enter, and it'll ask for the password you set, so I'm just going to type it in. Mine was test123. That's what I set when it asked up here. So I'm just going to type it in, press enter. It's going to sit for a second, and then it will go back to root at Ubuntu. So now that we have that good, what we have to do now is create two partitions, one for the system and the home and everything, and one for swap space. And since this partition, if we go into fdisk-l, this partition is 10.4 gigabytes. That's how much space we have to work with. I'm going to leave 9 gigabytes for the system and about 1 for the swap. So what we are going to do now is type in this pv create /dev/mapper/USB-sys, exactly like that, like we did in the last command. Let's press enter, and now it will say physical volume successfully created. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to create two volume groups, and the way we're going to do that is vg create and then we are going to type in /dev. Oh wait, no. Let me think, how are we going to do this? Okay, now that we created the physical volume, don't mind all of this, I was just trying, and this will be my third take, so let's try it again. So now we have to create the volume group, and the way we are going to do that is type in vg create, and then type in capital U, capital S, capital B, capital S, and then lowercase ystem for USB system, space, /dev /mapper /capital U, capital S, capital B, capital S, lowercase y, lowercase s. So your command should look something like this. You're going to press enter, and it should say volume group USB system successfully created. Now we are going to create the partitions for the system and the swap, and those are going to be logical volumes. And the way we are going to do that is the following. So what we are going to type in is lv create space dash lowercase l space 90% free all in uppercase. So it should look like this, space capital U, capital S, capital B, capital S, ys, and the y and the s is lowercase, and anything else from this point is lowercase tem. So it should look like that. And then we are going to and the way we are going to do that is by typing the following: lv create space dash lowercase l space 90% capital free space dash n, and then we will type in USB sys dash root, just like so. So it should look like the following, and then you will type in space and then USB sys tem, like I have right there. So I am going to press enter, and it should say logic volume USB sys dash root created. And now we are just going to press the up arrow, so we have the same command again, and we're just going to change a couple things. We're going to press the left arrow till we get to root. Your blinking white cursor should be right after the T. We're going to backspace root, and we are going to type in swap. So it's USB sys dash swap. And we are going to go to the 90% free. Going to put your blinking white cursor on the percent sign. Going to backspace twice to get rid of 90. And we're going to type in 100. And now you're going to press enter, and it should say logical volume USB sys dash swap created. So now if we do lv list if we do LV display, we should have two logical volumes. So if we scroll up, we see the first one is USB sys-root, that is 9.36 gigabytes. And we scroll down, we see the swap one, and it is 1.04 gigabytes. So that is perfect. And now, since we have done all that, we can minimize the terminal. Don't close it since we will need it later. Double click install Ubuntu 17.04, and we will now install the operating system. Alright, now that it is open, we are going to press continue, and you can go through the steps until you get to when it asks where you want to install. So you're going to get this screen asking you what you want to do. You can choose both of them if you want, but the internet won't work in a virtual machine because we didn't set it up to, so I wouldn't check any of these. I'd just press continue. And now that we're here, you don't want to choose erase disk, and you don't want to check any of these. You want to choose something else, and you press continue. Now we're going to wait for this to load. And now yours should look like mine. So what we are going to do is we are going to find where it says /dev/SDA1. I'm going to click on it and click change. And where it says use as, we're going to change it from do not use to NTFS journaling file system. You don't have to check format because we did that when we created it, but you want to click inside of mount point, and you want to type in /Windows and click OK. Now we are going to wait for that to show up right here and for the loading icon to go away. Now that that showed up right there and the loading icon is gone, we can go to do the next thing. So we are going to click on /dev/SDA2. And we are going to click change, and we are going to say use as ext2 file system. We don't need to format it, and we're going to click this drop down arrow right here on mount point, and we're going to do /boot. Click OK, and now we wait again. And now what we want to do is you do not want to touch SDA3 or else that will get rid of your encrypted partition. Rather, what we are going to do is go up to /dev/mapper/USB system -USB sys -root. We're going to choose the second one here, the one that has the box and the size in it. So the best way to make sure you choose the right one is if we choose this one, change is grayed out. But if we click this one, you're able to click change. So we're going to choose change, and we're going to say use as ext4 file system, and we are going to format it since we didn't do that once we created it. And the mount point, if we press the drop down arrow, will be /. Gonna press OK, and now we are going to wait. And if you are more comfortable with Linux, then you can choose any type of file system you want. You could use ext4 or the better FS if you prefer that one. It's really up to personal choice, but for those of you sticking to the tutorial, ext4 is the easiest to use. And now we're going to choose the swap one. Remember, choose the second one in the list. Going to click change. And we are going to say use as swap area. And then that's it. Just press OK. And now finally, before we press install now, we have to change one more thing. And that one thing is device for bootloader installation. Because if we keep it how it is, your system will not boot. So we are going to click this. We are going to change it to /dev/SDA. Not SDA2. I know that may seem confusing since we have SDA2 on /boot, but trust me, you want to keep it as SDA because you cannot install a bootloader to a partition. So now that you have it set to /dev/SDA and it says ATA QEMU hard disk, we are going to press install now, and you are just going to continue with the installer. And if it gives you anything about saying stuff will be erased, just press yes, and then you'll get this. And just everything should be good. So press continue. And now I'm going to speed up the video as I go through the installation process. Alright, once the installation has completed, you will get this dialog. Do not press restart now. Press continue testing, because if you press restart now, your computer will not be able to boot off the USB. The USB won't work if you don't do this extra step. That's what I mean. So we are going to press continue testing, and we are going to wait for that to close. The installation took about a half hour for me, by the way. Alright, once it closes, we are going to go to the sidebar over here, and we are going to reopen the terminal we minimized. So here it is again, and what we are going to do is the following. We are going to type in mount-o space proc, P-R-O-C, space wait a minute. And now once we open the terminal, what we are going to type in is mount/dev/mapper/usb-system-root, I believe. Okay, that's actually going to be that. USB system-usb-sys-root. And we're going to mount it to /mnt. So your command should look like this. Going to press enter, and there we go. Now what we are going to do is type in cd /mnt. Okay, now we are going to type in mount-o space proc space /proc space /mnt/proc. So your command looks something like this. Going to press enter, and it did not work. We are actually going to do -t proc. And after we do that command, we are going to type in mount-o space bind space slash sys space slash mnt slash sys. So your command will look like this. Press enter, and now change both syses to slash dev, like so. And we are going to do the same thing for, actually, I think that's it. Okay, so what we are going to type in now is mount slash dev slash sda2 slash space slash mnt slash boot. Press enter. Okay, now before we chroot into the installation, what we want to do is run the command blkid -o space list. There we go. Now you can see lots of confusing information here, but do not worry. What we are looking for is /dev /sda3. Next to it, it'll say crypto_Lucas, and then you will see a UUID. So we are going to copy that. Yours will be different. Gonna copy it, right click, and we are going to press copy. Now we can do chroot space /mnt. Okay, so now what we are going to do is type in cd space etc, press enter, and then type in nano space crypttab, so crypt tab, press enter, and it should be blank. We are going to type in the following. We are going to type in USB sys space, actually no, tab UUID in all capitals equals, then you're going to press Control Shift V to put in the UUID that you copied, then do tab none, do another tab LUKS. And this one is optional. If you want it to ask for your password twice when you boot up, just so it can verify you typed it in right, you can do tab verify, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it like that. Going to do Control X, and it'll ask you to save the modified buffer. Press Y, then press enter. And now what we have to do to save the changes is type in the command update -init ram fs space -u, press enter, and now we wait. Alright, and now that it is done, we are almost done. We have to do one more thing, and that is nano space and then fstab. Press enter, and now we will see this big file with lots of stuff in it. So what we are going to do is we are going to scroll down to see where it says /Windows was on /dev/sda1, And what we are going to do is go to the line under it where it has the UUID, and we are going to change it from /Windows to /media/ whatever username you chose during the installation. I chose Ryan / and then the label of the USB, which I believe was Ryan's USB. I made it, so I'm just gonna call it USB drive in all caps, because this doesn't really matter. It's just specifying a boot or specifying a mounting point. So now that we changed that, we are going to do Control X, type Y, then press enter. And now, since that is done, we can type in exit to get out of the chroot environment, and then just type in shutdown space now. Press enter, and it will shut down your virtual machine. And then once it does that, we are going to boot it up just to make sure it's able to boot up. And then we will put it on USB, and then we will be done. Now, if your virtual machine freezes once you do shutdown space now, what you can do is just go to the top and press the X right there, and then exit out. That's it. Now we are back at the terminal window, and you should have the prompt again. And what we are going to do is press the up button so you have the command again so you don't have to type it. But we're going to get rid of everything except for everything up to USB key.image. So that means we're going to get rid of the CD-ROM entry and the -boot entry, like so. I accidentally got rid of M and G. So your command should look like that. And we're going to press enter again, and we are going to make sure it will boot. So what's probably going to happen is you'll get a purple screen like this. If you get a purple screen, exit out and run the command again by pressing up and pressing enter. Because for some reason, if you get this on your first try where it has the entry, then just press enter on the top one. But if it doesn't do this, reset it, because for some reason QEMU doesn't like the graphics mode. But if you're running it off of the USB, you don't have to restart the computer. So I'm going to click enter on Ubuntu, and now we are going to wait for it to ask us for our password. So if you get that error, unable to init MCE device, just ignore it, it'll go away. So now it's going to ask us to unlock the disk. So we are going to type in the password we set. I remember I made mine TEST123. And when you do this, it'll show up as stars or as circles if you're in the graphic mode, if it shows up as a purple screen. So we're going to press enter, and it should say successfully set up the drive, which is good. And now we should proceed to the login screen once it's done booting up. So if we get to the login screen, we don't even have to log in. We can just shut off the virtual machine again, and we can put it on the USB. So you will get a TTY for a second, and then it will go into graphic mode since it started the X server. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the thing that shows all of your graphical interface. You'll get a mouse, and once you get a mouse, that means you're booted up basically, and it's gonna work. It was able to mount the mount the root device, and everything is good. So as you can see, everything is working. So since it's worked, we can go up here and press shutdown, and it should shut down the virtual machine. Give it a second and the window will close. There we go. And now for this step, you want to make sure your USB drive is in your computer, and type in fdisk space -L, press enter, find your USB drive, Mine's 16 gigabytes. It's right here. And again, if you don't know which one it is, pull out the USB drive, run the command, see which one disappeared, put it back in, and see which one reappeared, and then you'll figure it out. And this time what we want to remember is this right here, /dev/sdc, because we do not want to mess up this command because this has the potential of erasing your hard drive. So continue if you are brave. So what we are going to do now is put the operating system on the USB drive. So what we want to type in to put the operating system on the USB is as follows: dd space if equals USB key .img of equals, and then whatever your USB drive is assigned as. It may be SDB, maybe SDC. Mine is SDC, so we'll do /dev/SDC, and then we will type in BS equals 8 capital M, and then finally status equals progress, just so you know how far along in the process it is. Sorry about that. And we are going to press enter once we make sure everything is correct. If has to be whatever you named your HDA file that you specified up here, and obviously of has to be your USB drive. And once you're sure that is all correct, press enter, and then you wait. This has to copy the entire 16 gigabytes over, and it will take a little bit. So now we wait. And since my computer doesn't have USB 3 and this isn't a USB 3 USB drive, it is going to take me a while. So I will be back when that's done, and then we will boot it up on the actual computer, and then that will be it. So once the dd command has finished running, you're going to want to shut off your computer, and your USB stick is ready to use. So I'm going to turn on my computer just to demonstrate how it is used. So first you're going to want to plug it into a USB port and turn on the computer. Then once you see the BIOS screen, you're going to want to keep hitting F12. On most computers this is the case, but on computers such as my Acer laptop, you're going to have to press F2 and go through the BIOS. But for most computers, you're just going to want to do F12. So we are going to change the boot device to USB device and press enter. And now we wait, and in a second you will see a purple screen appear. This is good. It means we have entered the bootloader. Eventually the boot up process will halt, and it will ask you to unlock disk USB sys. At this point you will enter the password that you created when you were creating the partition. So in my case, I use the password test123, and once you enter it, you press enter, and then you will be presented with this message: USB sys set up successfully. And once you see this, you know that you are going through the boot process and your computer will turn on. If you get the password wrong, it'll just ask you to re-enter the password, so do not worry. And after a little bit of more time, you will get to the login screen, which will have the user you created. So all you have to do is type in the password you created when making the user. Then you wait a little bit longer. It's going to be a little slower if you're running on USB 2. I wouldn't even attempt this on USB 1. But now, as you can see, the desktop is loaded, and we are ready to use our new USB system on any computer. And it isn't the slowest thing in the world, and as you can see right here, we have the USB partition that we created to transfer files from Windows or your other computers to the USB system itself. Well, if you're seeing this, it means you've reached the end of the tutorial, and for that, I thank you for sticking through the entire thing, if you did. So, if you like this kind of content, and you want more like this in the future, be sure to tell me in the comments below. This video was actually recorded in August, and now it's January, and I've been making a few changes to my channel. First of all, my main channel is now called Laughing TNT Archives, because I will not be uploading to that channel anymore, and this is the last video on this channel to be branded as Laughing TNT Tech. I am currently deciding a new name right now,
And in the future, the videos will be rebranded. Not this one, not past ones, but any future videos I upload will be rebranded to be the new name. So, yeah, be sure to look out for that. Remember to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.